everybody, it's Larry and welcome to today's video. Now, what we're going to talk about today is first, hello, I missed y'all. We're going to get right into some new features that have come out with Ancestry, and we're going to talk a little bit about how they work and how you can use them in your research, and we'll just kind of go from there. So we're going to start with the DNA matches, and what they have is a way to link that person to your tree. So you see right here this nice blue icon with the check mark. That means I've linked them to my tree. So I'm going to take this off so we can do this all together. So we're going to click on this icon, we're going to click remove, and we'll go back to our match list. So, all right. What we have is we have now the ability to link our DNA matches to our trees that helps facilitate our work. Now, does this really help you in your research? That is a really good question, and I think it really depends on where you're at in your research. If you've kind of gone a long way, then the next step really is to go back again and find the MRCA for each person in your match list. Well, when you do that, you typically take it off into a spreadsheet format, and then you find it and assign it to them, and you're keeping track of it like that because there's really no way to keep track of it here. Now, this still doesn't really do that. Not in the way that it should, but hopefully that'll change, and I've given some feedback and hopefully that'll change. But if we go to the DNA match, it says right here Michael Barton. Now notice right here, if I hover over it, it says search for Michael Barton in my 2019 family tree. So I click on that to search, and it doesn't search. Okay, I actually have to type it in again. So I have to type in Michael Barton. Well, being the lazy person that I am, I'm going to highlight that, Control C, Control V, and press enter. Now, Ancestry, if you're watching, what I would like to see is when I click on this, Michael Barton is typed in, and it shows any and all Michael Bartons here. And see how I blanked it out? It can be there because in my tree I might have named him Mike Barton. Okay, shortened it. And so if that's the case, then right here I can type in Mike. But in this case it is Michael Barton. I click on that, it says living. And now I can click here and view in the tree. So once I do that, you get this nice little DNA icon, and you get the check mark that says it's linked to somebody in your DNA match list, and that's kind of cool. And I have Clarence, Brown, and Dolly, which are in my tree, which are my ancestors. So I'm gonna click on home and get me, and there's Clarence and Dolly. So I've identified my MRCA. So if we go back to my match list, and then I would hope that when I came here, Michael Barton would show common ancestor, but it doesn't. And the reason is this is really being kind of through line fed. If they have a tree, and this says no trees, if they have a tree, even if it's maybe unlinked in this case, sometimes it can find the common ancestry, weaves up both sides and stitches them together and gives it to me. Now you notice that when we started this video, this was highlighted. I left it there for more than a day, almost a week and a half, and it never filled that in, and I did confirm it doesn't do that, at least not yet, which is very disappointing because if I take the time to match them to my tree, and you then have a tree for that person because I've linked them to my tree. Remember, the concept of through lines used to go out and find other people for my tree by looking at their tree, and then it said, hey, take your tree and prioritize it over their tree. All right, so if we take that same logic and we take my tree and I prioritize it over the other tree, which in this case is no tree, then I should still be able to connect to them because they're in my tree, and I should be able to have a common ancestor and now connect them in through lines. So it should connect here, should connect in through lines. It doesn't because, and being a former programmer, I know it's like, okay, does it have any trees? No, skip. End of story. So that's, whenever you change something, why that seems like, oh, we'll just change a little bit of code. Nothing like in programming is that easy. I mean, sometimes just changing the order or changing the fonts or changing something like that can be major. Sometimes if you write it nice and clean, this, for instance, if you're using CSS, changing the fonts on the entire page is very easy. Change it in one text file, and you can refresh the page and everything's changed. If you have it hard coded, then it's a lot more difficult. So depending on how each piece of this logic is written, whether it's blocks and blocks of soft code, in which case one error just boom goes everywhere, or do you have sections that are soft and sections that are hard? So it can go on like that. So I would think that this is probably going to change at some point, because somebody there is going to say, hey, we do have a tree for that person right here. See that little tree icon that's blue and got a check mark? We now have a tree for them. So their tree and my tree now connect. So show me a common ancestor and show them in through lines. And when Ancestry finally makes that technological leap, the advantage then is going to be tremendous, because where these people don't have trees and I now am able to connect them to trees, it's going to be able to do some stitching behind the scenes that is potentially life-changing. Just like through lines, potentially life-changing, this could be the same way, because now everybody here, no tree, no tree, no tree. Well, if I assign all these people into my tree, okay, which I have done in my tree, right here it's locked, but I have no tree right here. I have that. Once I add these people into my tree, then now through lines can add them into my through lines tree, and then other people who have connections to me can now stitch these people together in theirs as well. The end result being all of the trees are going to get better. So one of the first steps is us taking the time to link this, even though right now it's not giving us a lot of value add, except for the fact it lets you have a nice little checkbox that says you've taken the time to add this person to your tree. Okay, so is it clean? It's not too bad, but see, one of the reasons I click here, it says search for JC. Of course, it doesn't search. So in this case, if I click here and I do a Control C, it says JC, no results were found. So I look here at the last name, it says Keatley, and I type in Keatley. And this is where I said before, you can auto search with this first and blank out that field, and then we're ready. So if I find the person, great. If I don't find the person, great. So I'm going to go right here. It already knows my common ancestor, even though it doesn't have connecting that tree. Dolly and Clarence aren't right here, but see Brown, and see this is going to be a Brown, okay? Geraldine Edmund Brown, so I know it's going to connect right there. So here's JC. Click on that, view it in the tree, and there we go. Francis Keatley, there's the Keatleys, there's Doris Brown and Edmund Brown. So 1928. Before, it gave me a nice little message saying, hey, you need to do something with this. This person's almost 100 years old. Is it right? And I did a quick edit, and yes, this person is deceased, and I flagged it as such. I don't have a death year on Geraldine, and she went by Geraldine, Doris Geraldine. I don't have a death year on that. But there is the common ancestor. So I have, again, the MRCA, and in this case, it does give it to me right here. It already did, because they had a tree and they stitched it together. In the case of Michael Barton, it didn't stitch it together because there was no tree here, but the fact that I linked him to my tree, then it should have, for the purposes of my through line, given me that information. You don't have to share that with the rest of the world, but since I've taken the time to click them here, I should get that there. So Ancestry, my suggestion again, if it says when I hover, well, that says connected to Michael Barton, but if it says it's going to search, right here it says search for Michael Barton. When I click on that, it should do the search for Michael Barton, then blank that out and give me all of the Michael Bartons in that list, if there are any. And if there's not any, like in the case of JC, then I would come back and just type it in. So it should default to this on the right with this field, just assign a null value after you fill this out, put the cursor there. If the person's there, I should be able to go click, and then come over here and go click and be done. Click, click, done, 2 clicks. Instead, I've got the average length of the name. You've got Michael Barton there, Morgana Abercrombie, Nancy Robledo 157, Ellen Oliver, Kelly Bauer. So every time, if anybody's dealt with Six Sigma, every time you have an action, there's a chance for a mistake. And when you look at the total number of matches that you have, new matches. Let's see, does that show total on this one? Somewhere it did the total. There you go, all matches, 74,000. If I was to go through here, in theory, and do all 74,000 matches, every time I'm typing in a name, there's a chance for me to mistype it, and in doing so, perhaps link to somebody incorrectly on the right. But if I can go click, there's only one, go click, boom, I'm there, I'm done. 2 clicks is a lot less of a chance of making a mistake than a whole bunch more clicks. So hopefully that will get improved. Now, I asked what the name of this was. What's the feature called? It's really not. It's simply matching. It's just a new feature of DNA matches. Remember, this used to be kind of in just 3 drop downs when you did the filters and stuff, and then it got broken out, which that was quite a bit of coding to break this out to do it, but very helpful. Okay, same thing here. This isn't going to value add immediately, but if we all use this to identify their MRCAs, when we get somebody and we are looking, and let's take an example of somebody that I know should connect over here. Let's go here, and I do the shared matches. If over here I see Michael Barton in the shared matches and JC in the shared matches for Nancy, I know exactly where I need to be looking for them in my tree. I know, how these two connect. And so I know this person, I know their centimorgans, and that's going to really tell me it's either going to be at, Clarence and Dolly, or we're probably looking maybe one step up. All right. So if I go to Nancy, let's see if it tells me anything there on their through lines. Doesn't give me that. Okay. Well, it does connect through Clarence and Dolly's parents, William and Caroline. So one more step up. And I knew that because of the centimorgans. I probably have that, in a tree. Let's see if I've got her in the tree. It's not the Nancy Robledo 157, but it may be Nancy Wooten. Okay, so Nancy Wooten, and there's William and Caroline. So my Clarence and Dolly were under William and Caroline, and Clarence's brother was John. And ironically, Dolly's sister was Ura Jane. So there were 3 brothers of the Brown Clarks that married 3 daughters of the McFarland Taylors. Okay, so there was that connection. But I was able, with the centimorgans, I knew because I had linked them in my tree. Let's go back to that. Because I had linked them to my tree, okay, this one didn't have a tree, so because I linked them, and I knew that he connected through Dolly and Clarence, and if I hadn't linked JC, then I would have been able to do that because I linked JC, and it has a common ancestor for them also of Dolly and Clarence. These are 781s. So when I was dealing with Nancy, then I knew that her DNA match, let's go back, go to Nancy. Nancy was a 483, which is roughly half of that, which means I had to go one more step up on the tree. So I knew that if I connected through Clarence and Dolly for this and Clarence and Dolly for that, then I'm looking at my tree, and I'm going to go look at Clarence and Dolly and then go one step up. So if I go to my tree and I go to Clarence and Dolly and I go one step up, I knew it was going to probably connect through here or here. And it turns out it actually connects through both because of the unique situation in the family of the 3 brothers marrying the 3 sisters. But I was able to tell exactly where to look into my tree. So if I didn't know these people, I would have known either Clarence, Brown's parents or Dolly's parents is where I should be looking because it was a 483 centimorgan. So the tool itself at this point isn't going to be a fantastic help in the sense of, you link them and you get more information. It's not like the color codes. It's not going to say, hey, this is where people are at. But when somebody pops into the match list, you're going to be able to look and say, okay, do they connect to these people I've already linked? And if so, how did these people link? What's their centimorgans? How many more steps up do they match me at? And you're going to be able to look right in a specific area and find it. Because what you're really doing behind the scenes is you're getting their common ancestor, their MRCA, even though it's not bringing it in for Michael Barton. In my tree, I have it. I know it. Okay, so I found the MRCA, but I wish it would show it right here because that would make it real easy. You get somebody their link, click the common ancestor, look at the centimorgans, and boom, there you go. So if you're trying to find missing family, it works the same way. So it's really important to go through and link all these people to your tree. And down the line, anytime there's a connection or a question, you just look at the shared matches, see what their MRCAs are, and you really get a good idea of where you have to look. And oftentimes you get the exact answer because the centimorgans are matched. Here's a 731, 781. In that case, if this person matched that, I could go right to the location. I'd know to be looking at the same node. Well, hopefully that helps. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. It's fun to get back. It's been a while. There's a lot of things going on here, going on in the world, and we're all getting a little antsy on it. But here's something to keep us busy in the meantime. It's a nice little feature. So go through your DNA match list, build out your tree. I actually use Family Tree Maker and search and do that and keep my notes, and I link back to the URL for the individual profiles here, track their centimorgans and things of that nature. That just seems to be a better way than tracking it here. This is still a little clunky because it doesn't give me the information. But the steps are, when you're trying to find information out, first step, cluster your family, cluster the family, give it the color codes, use the DNA match list. The good video in channel, we were the first ones to make one when it first came out, rather by chance, but first one to make one when it came out, and it's still good now. Now we plan on making a new one that's polished, maybe it's a little more understandable, and so look for that to be coming very, very soon. But you want to color code them, and then the next thing you want to do is you want to find everybody's MRCA. And unfortunately, you still have to find a way to offload the DNA match list, through one of the third-party programs. I'm not going to mention those at this point because it's not. I'm hoping Ancestry will just add the button and give us that download like hint, hint, every other company does. You should be able to do the sorts and the filters here, and then the results be downloaded into a CSV. It's not that hard. I mean, it actually really isn't that hard, especially since this is coming in through JSON and it's already pre-formatted. A little bit of CSS using the print code and throw it into a PDF. That's fine. We can copy and paste or throw it into a CSV, something of that nature, or give us the option for both. That'd be very handy. And if you want to eliminate the need for that, then when we make this link here, give us that common ancestor, because once we've linked the tree, it should be able to identify that immediately. If it needs to run through the process like through lines and be 2 days later, I can understand that too. But if we take the time to link it to the tree and show you what the MRCA is, then you should show it to us here. And one of the reasons I think that that's good for both of us is once you've shown it to us here, now you're going to be able to stitch together all these trees, even when there's no trees, in ways that you've never done before. So it's a kind of a win-win-win scenario for all of us. Hopefully Ancestry was listening to that last part, and hopefully I didn't bore the rest of you because that was kind of a repeat, but kind of a summary in case somebody from Ancestry is watching the video. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Glad to be back. And if you thought it was interesting enough, pass it along to somebody else. And we'll talk to you later.